back. I hope that everybody is staying safe, keeping those masks on, wearing those gloves, making sure you sanitize everywhere you go. We're going to get through this. When we talked in our last segment, we were talking about the decision-making process. Now listen, before we get off into anything, listen, it does us no good to just be a collector of information. If you're not going to apply the things that we learn, how are we going to get better? So make sure that you practice this stuff. Put it into action. It's new information for some people. For some people, it's just a refresher. Whatever it is, whether it's a refresher or if it's new information, let's try to apply it on a daily basis and watch how our lives get better. Today we're going to talk about our mental options board. Mental options board. What is that? Your mental options board looks just like this. In our minds, we have our do's and our don'ts. Those do's and don'ts represent boards. On your do board, it has all of those things that you know that you should do. The things that we know are the right things to do. For instance, let's just say that, okay, I'm hungry, I know my money is low, and I walk into a store and I think, you know that little, you know how the devil gets on one shoulder and there's a little angel on the other one? Something in this ear says, hey man, you can get that and get away with it. You know your money is low. And on the other side, it says, hey, you know the stealing is not right. You shouldn't do that. You're not that hungry. And you choose not to do it. Well, the choice that you make is going to rely very heavily upon what's on your mental options board. See, stealing, for me, is not on my options board. So I'm not going to go anywhere and steal for any reason because it's not an option for me. Using drugs, not an option for me. It used to be an option years ago, but I had to challenge that information that was in my brain. And when I evaluated it, reevaluated it, and changed it around, the information that I start putting into those situations caused me to make a better decision. And at the end of it, I was able to take off of my mental options board using drugs. See, you're only going to do the things in life that are on your options board. If screaming and yelling when you come into a confrontation with a person, if that's on your options board, that's what you're going to do. You may not use that every time that you have a confrontation, but the situation is always going to arise for you to use that option. Option number 33, yell and scream whenever I'm upset. We have a lot of tension going on in society right now with this COVID-19 thing going on. It's causing us to have to separate from each other, keep that distance, to stay indoors. We find ourselves with our spouses and with our children way more than what we're used to. We used to have a little outlet where we could go to work and see some other people and do some other things and then come back into the family unit or whatever that household looks like and then deal with these people. Well, that whole dynamic has changed. It causes tempers to rise and people to get irritated with people. And I'm sitting here just looking at you all the time. And you're sitting here just looking at me all the time. And oh boy, I really didn't realize how big your feet were. And guess what? I didn't know how big your ears were. And we start these things back and forth and driving each other nuts. And guess what? If your options board has hitting, cursing at each other, screaming and yelling, instead of having conversations, you're going to do these things if you want to stop doing those things. Because guess what, guys? Sometimes we're faced with some things that we're doing, like using drugs, abusing alcohol, yelling and screaming, not being responsible. A lot of these things we're doing, but we really don't want to do those things. And we can't figure out, man, how can I stop doing that stuff? How can I stop? How can I prevent myself from doing that again? Because you do it, and then you feel so bad, and here comes the guilt, and here comes the shame, and then you have that moment you say, you know what? I'm not going to do that ever again. And you get on your horse, and you get to marching until that situation comes up again for you to use option number 33 or 37 or 42 on your mental options board, and you pull that option off, and you find yourself doing the same thing over again. Listen, if it's not on your options board, you won't do it. You find some people, you look at their relationships and you say, wow, how do these two always seem to, no matter how crazy stuff is, they never yell and scream at each other. They get angry, but they don't hit each other. They don't yell and scream at each other. They don't throw things at each other. They don't go and cheat on each other, no matter what. And some people were just baffled by that. Well, it's really simple. It's not on their options boards to do those types of things to each other or to anybody. If it's on their board, they'll use that option. If hitting a woman, which is a terrible thing to do, it's a terrible thing. If you strike a woman, it's because it's on your mental options board. How can we take that off? People say, oh, well, you know, I got to lay down, get me a psychiatrist, and go to a, you know what I mean? Listen, anger management has some great information. You may go to a psychiatrist. They'll give you some great information, okay? But you've got to apply that information and apply what parts you can use. Because what makes the zebra well may not make the elephant well. Does that make sense? It makes sense to me. I've seen the zebra in the zoo go through some stuff, and I've seen the elephant in the zoo go through some stuff, and it looked like they was both hungry, but they sure reacted to hunger in a very different way. So you can't apply the same thing. You may be able to just, you know, walk up on the zebra a little bit with some grass in your hand, and hey, fix his problem. Well, if you try that with an elephant, he just may slam you all over the place with that big trunk of his. So, case in point, you can't use the same remedies to cure everything and everybody the same way. So you have to find out. Here comes the work. Remember, prevention says this. This is what it means. It is the action of stopping something from occurring, from happening, or arising. That's what prevention is. So that means that we have to engage into our futures. We have to engage and we have to apply ourselves to the cure. Here it is. I'm sitting down and I'm thinking about this situation. Let's use right now one of the most common ones that's going on, because since this COVID-19 thing, we've seen abuse of women going up. Spousal abuse, it's going up. It's on the rise. You know why? People are in the house together more. That woman is in there. Now, she can't go to work. She has to be in there with Bluto. And he's all frustrated because he can't pay his bills. And she's looking at him like, we need these bills paid. And so everybody's frustrated and everybody's going crazy, and he lashes out and just goes crazy and snatches option number 33 off of her and bow and hits her. Then he feels bad. Man, I wish I didn't do that. Well, this is what you got to do, Bluto. And this is what you have to do as the receiver of that stuff. Listen, when the stuff starts to escalate, when the temperatures shoot up, when the stress comes on you and you're feeling all, listen, take that 60-second rule. Stop. Don't do anything. Just calm down. Don't do anything. Give yourself a minute to just let that heat subside. And once it does subside, think about it. You know how you're going to feel on the other side of taking those bad options that are on your board. You know how awful you're going to feel. You know the remorse and the regret and the shame that you're going to feel. self-discipline yourself into saying, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. Just like in the military, you got to do things repetitively, over and over and over and over and over. You practice them and you practice them until they become second nature. And if you keep telling yourself, you know what, no matter what happens, I'm not going to strike her. I'm never going to hit her again. I'm never going to reach out and hit me, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. Guess what? Eventually, boom, you done wiped it off of your options board, your mental options board, and hitting a woman is no longer an option for you. It's just that simple, but it takes work. You have to apply yourself, and you have to be willing to fight. Listen, people, this is where we're going to end part one of this segment today, this mental options board. Listen, your life, your future is worth fighting for. We're your friends here at Preferred System. We care about your life. And we want to help you fight for your life and for your future. And help you to fight not to go back to those bad things. And to get all of that stuff off of your mental options board. We're going to help you fight. But guess what? We're going to help you fight. You've got to get in the ring. You've got to throw some punches to defend your own future. My name's Fred Williams. I thank you for joining me today. And I'll be back tomorrow. You take care, stay safe, and God bless.